I think I'm going to start off. Let's just go. You aren't seeing anything. Let's see. That's useless. Let me get a screen share going. All right. It is about time. Okay, so let's see, where are we today? So I want to take a look at some housekeeping things like we normally do. The issue here is that, let's see, this is an atypical day. I don't know why that's not scaled right, but let me fix that. We have a lot of stuff I want to talk about today in the context of so-called housekeeping. Mainly what I want to do is make sure that you guys kind of know what's going on with the next couple of days of class. So let's just go through a few things. And of course, that's not the actual slides. There we go. So this is our mega housekeeping. I actually did slides for it, which is kind of part of the reason that I'm running just a little bit late today. There's four main things we want to talk about. The last one is just the lab, and it's basically, go forth and do lab attendance. By the way, you guys can hear me okay, I hope, and you are not seeing anything. So let's start our screen share. We will share, let's see, what will we share? There we go, we'll share that. I did all these nice slides and then I wasn't going to show them to you. Okay, so we have, the first thing is we have to do some general things on grades. We're being asked to take attendance or to verify your attendance. So if you're missing assignments and you haven't turned in anything in the last couple of weeks, you're probably going to get marked as having dropped the course. I don't think it affects anything, and certainly as soon as you start submitting stuff, everything will be good. I don't actually know what they're trying to do other than they were caught off guard last semester by students who dropped out of school and never canceled their registrations, and then everything was just completely messed up. And I think they're trying to get on top of that. So I have been asked to say who is not attending. And it protects you guys more than anything else, I believe. At least that's my interpretation of it. Because what it means is that if you need to, if you drop out and you're trying to get your money back, this is, kind of the last, dates become important for you. So it kind of flags all that. And similarly, EWSs are going to go out. I'll talk about those in a second. Tuesday, we have project selection, so I want you guys to be thinking about that. You should be thinking seriously about it. You may have to do a little bit of homework to get yourself in the process of having done that. Excuse me. And then, of course, we have the test on Friday that I want to talk about, and then, like I said, we will just have the lab kind of going from there. So, let's walk through the next slide, I guess. So the attendance in EWSs, I have to do them. The EWSs are to help you if you know where you sit. But quite honestly, we've had a couple of labs. The first real thing you're going to be doing is turning in your analysis paper. We'll get that graded as quickly as we can and get some information out to you based on that. I will have updated rainbow grades for you tonight. I would have had them earlier in this week until I realized that Lab 2 hadn't been completely graded. That's completely done now. So it's all set. I just have to pull them down and rerun the rainbow grades. You'll get a feeling for where you are just from the 2 labs, and then as soon as we have the analysis papers graded, I'll add that to it as well. Even then, though, that's not a lot of points. So, take that into consideration. There's always room at this point in the semester, at least in this class, to make up a lot of ground, particularly given how important the projects are for the grade and the fact that we haven't started them yet. So yeah, everything's recoverable. If you have any questions, please, put up your hand or ask me or whatever you want to do. So that's basically just this first part. I just wanted to let you know that things have gone out, or the attendance stuff has gone out. EWSs will go out hopefully at the end of this week. Mainly that's going to be people who haven't been submitting stuff, and hopefully you already know that you haven't been submitting stuff, so I don't expect that to be a big deal. Project selection. I looked at the roster right now, and we have about 50 students. So if you think that a good group is about 4 to 6 students, you can figure out, we'll probably have a couple of singles in there. You can probably figure out that as far as it goes for us this semester, we're probably going to need at least in the range of 10 to 13 projects in order to get everybody working on a project. And that should say Tuesday is the day to resolve as much of this as possible. So let me... I'm used to teaching Mondays and Fridays, Mondays and Thursdays this semester, and only having Tuesdays and Fridays as ARCOS, but that's not the case this semester. So Tuesday will be the day to get as much of that resolved as possible. So what we're going to do is, over the weekend, as soon as I can, I started doing it now, getting all the links together that we needed. Of course, I just realized that I closed a bunch of windows that have the share links in it, but I can get to that. I'm going to post links to the project pitches for ARCOS. Your projects will have a lot of the same flavor of the ARCOS projects. The difference is that you'll have, more support in generating them generally. But I'll post links to the ARCOS project pitches this weekend. Feel free to look around at those. There's a couple of ways you can use that. Some of the projects may still be looking for people. Certainly some of the IBM projects, it looks like they may be looking for people, and I have something from the Linux Foundation that is looking for people as well. So if you're looking for projects, there are the possibility of joining projects that are currently ongoing in ARCOS. You can also go to the ARCOS, to the observatory, arcos.io, arcos.io, and look at past projects if you'd like. If you were previously on one of those projects and you want to resurrect it, that is also fine. So there's lots of things, lots of resources in ARCOS that you can use. But the main thing I want you to do is to look at what the project pitches are and the areas that we're working in. If you want to join a project, if you want to restart a project, please do a little legwork before Tuesday. Reach out to the people. Everybody's supposed to have their contact information on their slides. Please reach out to them, and don't come in Tuesday and say I'm joining, submittee, and haven't talked to Professor Cutler about it yet, because we want you to have projects. We want to get that resolved as quickly as possible. And you should, these are negotiations. You have to the project has to want to work with you, and you have to want to work with the project. We're not going to require it to go either way. The other thing we'll do now on Tuesday is that anyone who wants to do a quick pitch, anyone who has an idea, half-formed, unformed, well-formed, whatever makes sense. It doesn't have to be a well-formed project. It doesn't have to be fully thought out. But if you have an idea of something you might want to try and it isn't binding, you can pitch a project and then decide to join someone else's. That is perfectly fine. I'm going to give you an opportunity to pitch. 50 of you, I expect no more than a quarter of you are going to want to do it. I would be ecstatic if we had half of you want to do it, but I think probably about a quarter of you would do it. That would be pretty good. That'll get us, about 25 or 45 minutes, depending on how closely people adhere to the 1 minute and how fast we can kind of cycle through these. So it's a reasonable amount of time to pitch. All you're trying to do is get some excitement for your ideas. And after everybody has pitched, anyone who wants to talk has pitched, I'm going to go down. And if you remember when we had the debate, I opened up a bunch of student spaces. I'm calling them lounge areas. I'll open up a number of lounge areas, and you guys can kind of self-congregate into areas and talk about the various projects and discuss what you may or may not want to do. I'm not going to require you to tell me what you're doing on Tuesday. I am going to open it up for you guys to both air your ideas publicly and to then get together and kind of talk about them in a group environment. So I think that'll be very useful. I kind of like it better when we're in person, and I can just kind of like move people around and kind of manage this way more actively. But I think this will work, and we're gonna certainly give it a shot. So one thing that I forgot to mention on the very first slide was next week is a really good week. If you are generally viewing this asynchronously, if you're generally doing this via the recording, next week is a really good week to be here in person. It is much harder to do these discussions, on Discord after the fact than it is to do them in person in these little rooms where you can actually talk to one another and ask questions and kind of interact. So I'm really going to encourage you, if at all possible, to try to attend synchronously. I'm not going to require it, at least not for the pitches, but please try to attend synchronously if you can. It will make this a lot easier. As you're talking, I'll also create some project discussion channels in Discord. How I go about doing that, I'm not exactly sure yet. Most likely I'll have one Discord channel per presented project or per project that's open for people, and we will just allow you guys to do discussions there or chats there. So but we'll use both Discord and we'll use this Nook lounge space as places to kind of get together and do that. Any questions so far? Okay. You guys have so few questions. Like if I could see you, I expect that every one of you would have your head down in your hands, sleeping. You'd have a picture of the little Z's floating above your head, like in the old cartoons. And by the way, I'll post these housekeeping slides as well. The rest of the time on Tuesday, again, is going to be up to you guys. I'll manage the discussions. I'll tape the discussions going through for all the presentations. And then I'll basically turn it over to you, and I'm going to ask you guys to talk to one another. And I know that's a very scary and unpopular thing, but it's really the only way to kind of form these groups in a fashion that doesn't require me to randomly assign people to different groups and make them work. By the way, if any of you have worked on a project before in Arcos, and I recognize a number of names, you're welcome to do that. If you're working on it this semester, it becomes a little tougher in that I would like to see a clean separation between what you do on Arcos and what you do on this course. So I would suggest maybe picking two different areas to work in, maintaining two different branches, something like that, so that I can quickly pick out, you can't double count your work. So just kind of keep that in mind as you're working forward. So next week is a testing week, which means a testing project pairing week. So we'll have project pairing on Tuesday. We'll have testing on Friday. We're not going to have new material that week, so there won't be any lab due the following Monday. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up a team gradable on Submiti, And what I'm going to want you to do is I'm going to want you to tell me who you're working with, and I'm going to want you to give me a one-page description, quick summary of what you think you're going to work on, with the understanding that this is not binding. You guys, in a week, I don't expect that you'll have a great feel for all the details of your project, but hopefully you'll have enough of the details that that you'll be able to give me something that I can use to kind of track your progress and figure out what you're working on. I'm not going to grade the content so long as it's responsive to the question, right? I'm going to want a paragraph and maybe a few milestones. As long as you have that, I'm not going to tell you that you have bad punctuation or your idea is dumb or anything like that. I will, however, grade you on presence or absence. If you do something that's completely non-responsive, like a one sentence, I want to do a project, that's not going to count. And as long as if you don't submit as well, that's going to not count. The concept is that I just need to know what you're doing, and this is my way of finding out from you what projects this group as a whole is going to be working on and who's going to be working on them. That's going to be pretty critical for me to do grading and to figure out where you are and what you're doing and if you're falling behind and if you need help. These are the links. I'll post these into Discord at some point this weekend. These are links to the project proposals for the first three sessions for sessions 2 through 4 of ARCOS, where we went over most of the project pitches. There are some extraneous pitches that were externals that I'll try to post some of those in the Discord channel as well. Look for those, take a look at them, see what's going on. I think the final thing on this, or the final couple of things on this, Jim Baker is a technical program manager for the Linux Foundation. And if you know the Linux Foundation, it has a lot of responsibilities in keeping Linux up and running and cool. They are actually looking for some help in open source networking. This is his front page. He's got a longer presentation, and I'll post the longer presentation. We weren't very successful in getting people interested in his project during ARCOS, and I'm not really sure why. It's a really cool project that deals with CI/CD, continuous integration and deployment, and it looks like a really interesting project with a really interesting group, the Linux Foundation. So one of the things I'm going to encourage you guys, especially if you're interested in networking or you're interested in continuous integration, continuous deployment, to take a look at the open source networking project. Hunter says that he would work, but he's too busy. And yes, I can vouch for him being too busy. We have him working. He's one of our ARCOS coordinators, and we're giving him sufficient to do. Cool, excellent. I'll post this thing. I'll put his contact information. I already warned him that I was going to try again this time. I think part of what may have happened is at ARCOS we have this concept of project pairing, where we get everybody together in a room, and I think somehow he missed the note that he was supposed to be in Discord answering questions, and people just kind of noticed that there was nobody there and kind of went by it. So that is bad news for ARCOS and excellent news for us, because that means that this is still available, and I think it could be pretty cool. So I'll put out some stuff this weekend and certainly through next week to kind of help you make decisions. This is one of the ones that I would really like to see us pick up. It should be interesting. He could use, I have one person saying they're interested. Quite honestly, a couple more. This doesn't have to stop at one, so we can kind of get through. Hunter, as a bow to you, this is an example of a good project pitch. If you're going to do a project pitch on Tuesday, Hunter and his group, and he has a really good group, have refined this over multiple semesters. But basically it's a cool little picture because everybody likes cats. The internet was made just so we could look at more cat pictures, apparently. But what your title is, what you want to do, what you're looking for, and this can be very nascent. You don't have to know very well what you're looking for. That's part of what you can discuss with your group. And I'm really happy to see when these are kind of group decisions that are made. But again, Hunter and company have been doing this for a while. They kind of know what they're looking for. And then some contact information. And the whole idea is if you can present this in 30 seconds, you can present this in a minute. Maybe if you really need to, you can toss in an extra slide. But it's just enough to get some people thinking about it. And somebody who says, hey, I want to learn HTML or I want to learn MongoDB. How this might be a project I want to get involved with, or maybe I really hate iClickers and this is a project I want to get involved with. I have I think one more BrokerBot. Here's another one. I just threw these in just so you guys could kind of see successful presentations from last semester. And again, I'm hoping that at least a quarter of you will kind of consider doing this. So consider it. It's a good opportunity. It's a good experience. At least I think it's a good experience. And we get a lot of good ideas out this way. And by the way, we now have Quacks is actually joined Arcos and is being worked on. So if you are an anti-Yaxer, as kind of a punny bow to anti-vaxxer, if you want to join some of these projects, I don't know, you'll have to convince the Quacks team, but there are all sorts of cool projects that have come out of Arcos and Arcos types of development. They kind of, I'm going to say that Quacks was a reaction to some flaws in Yaks that they felt. Not to diss Yaks. I love both of them. And now they've come back and actually joined Arcos, which is kind of cool to see. So at least from my standpoint, I like seeing Darwinism in action. It's a beautiful thing. And who knows who's going to outcompete whom. Okay, so that's all I had. And there Hunter has a nice note. So it was appropriate that I threw his slide up there because he is actually open to more people. And it's a very fun project, very well run, at least as far as I can tell. If not, they're very good at confusing me. All right, so I just wanted to throw those up. The test on Friday. What I'm planning on doing is one synchronous test. I was hoping to look at all of the time zones, but I haven't actually gotten there yet. I am considering whether we need a second session. What I will do is I'll either hold one synchronous test at this time on Friday, or I will hold two synchronous tests, one at this time and one 6, 8 in the evening, something like that, depending upon where people go. You have to convince me to do it, though. I need to know why you can't make 12 o'clock on Friday or 12:20 on Friday, and there's going to have to be more than just one of you. I want to make this a worthwhile effort if I'm going to hold a second session. So please, if you need a second session, if you feel you can't make 12:20 Eastern time on Friday, let me know no later than class time on Tuesday. And I'll take all of the requests I get, and I'll look at how many of them there are, and I'll look at the time zones, and I'll come up with a time that fits both when I can be there and that works better with your times. Again, it's by request, though. I need to know by Tuesday if you feel you need or deserve a second test time. The test is going to be timed. Right now, I'm thinking it's probably going to be about an hour because that gives us some slop time. You can see that I don't seem to be able to get through things as rapidly as we'd like. So it'll be timed. It'll be targeted for probably an hour, maybe an hour and 15 or something like that. If you have accommodations, and by the way, it will be timed on Submiti. And if you've taken a timed test on Submiti, you know that we can put in penalties so that like every minute that passes past your scheduled time, we can deduct a point or half a point, or every 5 minutes we can deduct a point, however we decide to go about and do it. And that can be enforced by when you submit your exam. We can also accommodate accommodations. So we can actually change on an individual basis how much time you get based upon your accommodations. So my conception is to actually use that. If you have any questions, please ask. Please post to Discord. I'll try to answer them. I did this for CS1 last semester, and to a lesser extent with operating systems the spring before. So it's definitely doable. It'll be modeled over the tests that I gave you in that's because I'm in the wrong window. It'll be modeled off the tests that I have right. If you come into here, you come into resources, you come into sample quizzes. Here are spring 2019 study material for test 1, summer 2018 study material for quiz 1. Right, just go through. I expect the quizzes will be roughly the same format. Right, there's 7 questions, 95 points because I couldn't add back in the summer of 2018. It was supposed to be 100. Right, these are the types of questions, some short fill in the answers. Best answer, circle the best answer, essentially multiple choice. Get type problem with a free response, a markdown problem with a free response, a compilation makefile, and then a CMake file, right? You can expect something similar. I'm looking at the CMake stuff, and the CMake stuff, it looks cooler this year. So this was a pretty simple one. I might go more complicated than that. But not too much more complicated. This is not targeted for a 2-hour test. It's targeted for, like I said, an hour, maybe an hour and 15 minutes. And so there are a bunch of things there. Study them. They may be harder. They may be easier. But this should at least give you an idea of how it goes. And I don't see how long I will give you. But again, you can figure about an hour 15 for without the not accommodations time. Any questions? All right. Man, you guys are incredibly bored, I guess. All right. It's going to be open books and open book and open notes. But I don't want you to use other resources beyond the class notes and readings. I gave you a lot of readings. Download them, have them available on your computer. Don't use Stack Overflow. Don't use Chegg. I'm counting on you guys. You're taking a 4,000 level course. You're largely juniors and seniors. You know better by this time. So I am holding you to an honor system. But if I do catch you, you will receive a 0. You'll submit directly on Submiti. The whole test will be. I should have pulled that together. I'll try to pull together a sample test by next class, but it should be right on Submiti. Let me see if I can go back to last semester. Okay, so if I come into the test practice, it's going to look something like this. There's actually a front page that tells you don't cheat. And then you have a question, and this can be a multiple choice question, or it can be a paragraph that you have to analyze and write something for. You can come down in here and you can type some stuff in. And when you're done, you can come down and hit submit. I suggest you hit submit after answering each question, because otherwise you can lose some data if there's a glitch. But I can have things like I have a couple of short programs here, 3 short programs here. But you can also do things like multiple choice types of effort. So it's going to be, you come right here. It times you from the time of your last, the last time you hit submit, from the time you come onto this page until you hit submit the last time. That's how long it takes you to actually do the test. We can measure that. And that's how we can assess penalty points if we need to. Does that kind of answer your question? So it's kind of cool. It's a neat way to do it, except at the same time it's kind of a pain. But we will do it this way for 50 people. We've run it with several hundred students in CS1 last semester. So I expect that with 50 students, we're not going to have much of a problem. All right. Let's see, where was I? Here. Okay. So that's all I wanted to kind of talk to you about that. Are there any questions? I went back over the notes from Git or from CMake, and I think we covered almost everything. And you have a nice long introduction to CMake. So I think I'm not going to go over any more of that material. I'm just going to cut it off here. But the lab will get you caught up if there's any questions there. But I'm certainly your mentors and TA and myself are certainly happy to answer any questions you have off of the end of the last lecture. I know I kind of rushed through that a little bit. All right, go forth in lab. Let's see. The lab can be found at. I'll post it into the. Submittee. Or not into submit. I'll post it into the chat here. So the lab is at. Oh, and by the way, one more thing, just to call this to your attention. Somehow the answers for the lab got checked into the lab. So I'm going to ask that you do a poll. If you have this locally, do a poll before you get started. It's only for the last part of the lab, for where you're working with lab BuildSystems. But you shouldn't have a make file or a CMake file there, just for laughs. You shouldn't need them. This is a lab. It doesn't help you to have the data all there. See if you can do it from scratch. And you can always go back and look in the previous notes if you get stuck. We didn't ask you to do anything too catastrophic on that. Just do a pull. It'll clean out, get rid of the CMake file and the make file. You can start from scratch, and that will actually help you learn the material far better than not doing a clean pull. There we go. So here's the link to the lab online. All right. If there are any questions, please ask them. Otherwise, get busy. I apologize for taking as long as I did, but there have been a lot of questions hitting me on the test and on the presentation, or on the picking projects. And I wanted to make sure you guys had a good, solid base going in. This should help. And again, if you can possibly be synchronous next week, it is substantially better talking to people in these rooms than it is trying to communicate via Discord. You'll get more out of it. You'll be able to more rapidly pick out what project you want to work on. And you can ask questions, right as people are presenting. All right. Thank you. Please plan to present on Tuesday. We really need it. You're welcome, Andrew. We have a bunch of people watching alone. I don't know how many of those are mentors or TAs, but please feel free to go and join a group. You know, the labs, we want you to submit your own work for the labs, but this is meant to be a collaborative learning experience. So bouncing ideas off of one another, or bouncing off ideas off of a mentor or a TA, are all very valid ways of going about doing this. So I know a lot of you probably don't have issues with Makefiles or CMake. Hopefully you learn a little bit here, because, by the way, they changed CMake enough that I learned a few new things when I went through the lab, which is why I'm thinking that this could be a much more fun test than the previous one. But please kind of take that into consideration. Go in, get a place where if you have questions or if you don't quite understand something, don't just go through the mechanics of getting a solution. Go through the mechanics of learning why something is and how to iterate to get a solution. And you'll do that a lot better if you have people you can kind of talk to about it. Talking in this, in the labs is perfectly is encouraged and allowed. This is one of the more collaborative courses you'll have. There's very few times when you're going to hear me say, and if you're caught cheating, it's a 0. Because it's harder to cheat when you're in a collaborative environment working jointly on a project.